you have mentioned the contributions of these presidents, and of course I'm sitting here looking at your resume with some of the contributions that you have made. And one thing that catches my eye is the fact that you say that in the 1960s you did field work with the League of Women Voters of Mississippi. And it would seem to me that that would have been a very interesting time to have been in Mississippi in the mid-1960s. I'd like to hear about it.
Well, it was an interesting time. It was during the problems with school desegregation and the race relations issue. There had been a league in Mississippi, well, several years, I don't really know how long. It was not a very strong league at the state level. There were maybe 3 or 4 local leagues. It was very difficult for the local leagues because, in the first place, the league had a policy of open membership, which
you mean the National League?
The National League had a policy of open membership, meaning that any woman, and I underline any woman citizen, which in those days meant black or white, could belong to the League of Women Voters. But you get in a state like Mississippi where activities were segregated, the League found it very difficult to recruit black members. And I'm sure it was very difficult for black women to come to the League, to approach the League and say, I would like to be a member, because it was such a segregated atmosphere. So the League was, if they did anything at all in terms of making known that membership was open to black women, was looked at as suspect. So they found it hard to raise money. They found it hard to get members because many white women would not join if they thought there were going to be blacks.
Were the white women who were in the League willing to accept blacks as members?
Yes, they were. They found it hard to find meeting places if they had black and white women meeting together. And they found it hard to work on issues in the community. Therefore, the League was really pretty small. The local leagues were small. They were not strong. They didn't have enough leadership to pass much of it on to the state level. So the state was a very weak organization too. And there was concern on the part of the National Board that here was this state league with 3 or 4 local leagues really not able to do much of anything. And the question was, should we just disband the whole organization in Mississippi and wait for a while and go back and try to reorganize? Or should we give some kind of support? I don't mean financial support, but moral support, I guess, and guidance to the League in Mississippi to help them be more effective. And it was in that kind of background that I did work over a period of 2 years, I think, with the League in Mississippi. The president at that time was a woman professor at the University of Mississippi. And I think I went maybe 3 times to work with the state board and once to attend their state convention. And I worked with them in the area of adoption program, how they could work, how local leagues could work in a community on acceptance or on issues, and how to do voter service work. The whole question of registration and voting for individuals. And here again, you got into the problem of black registration and black voting and the requirements, the poll tax. Another thing they were trying to work on was jury service for women, which, you know, you would think by the 1960s would not have been an issue, but it was in Mississippi. I'm not sure that the League advanced all that much based on the work I did with them, but they did manage to hold in there. And they still have an organization today, and it probably is not as strong as a lot of state organizations, but it's still going. And I think it was valuable to keep it, rather than let it be disbanded and admit and have the women, the members of the League in Mississippi, have to admit that they couldn't make a go of it. I think that would have been very demoralizing for them.
When you were there, was this before the Voter Rights Act? Ultimately, of course, there were massive efforts.
Right.
But you were there really
a little before
that.
Little before that, right? Yeah.
It has black membership in general, although the League has always had open membership. Has the League attracted black women across the country historically?
Well, I think there are black women who are members of the League now. I really don't know how many there are. There's certainly more now than there were, say, in the 60s. I find it very hard to talk about black women as members, not because I think they shouldn't be, but I'm not a black person. And so I don't know how a black woman feels coming into a predominantly white organization. I know how white women feel coming into a white organization, because I've had many white women say to me, I really couldn't join the League because I don't know enough. And or they say, I'm not smart enough. Or they say, everybody knows so much. Now, these are all the reasons that some white women don't join. And you try to convince them that, well, not everybody knows so much. The most League members started out not knowing very much at all, and they have learned. But what do you say to a black woman when she says, I don't feel comfortable there? I don't know how to answer that.
It is essentially a middle class or maybe even upper middle class organization, and it doesn't attract many white women. You're right.
Right.
And sometimes, I guess, in our aspirations for ourselves, we have to remember the limits of our appeal.
Right. And I think we are an upper middle class organization. Now, many people in the League don't like to hear that, but I think we are. You get upper middle class black women. I think they would like many of them, I guess, would rather belong to their own organizations where they are meeting their own goals rather than join a predominantly white organization where the goals are seen as white goals. Now, having said all that, I'm not sure that it has any value, because I have to say what I said to begin with. I'm not a black woman. There are members, and I think some of them, they enjoy the league or they wouldn't stay in. Some of them are not active, but some white women aren't active. I'm sure some of them would like the league to be doing things we aren't doing, just as any member would like the league to be doing something we're not doing. So, you know, it's we're alike. But I feel that I guess what I've said is a personal feeling about it, but I think it's something that has to be shared.